Hi guys, JT here, and with every Humble Monthly, the question is, what are the games like? Well, here's a bit of information of each game in this month's Humble Monthly to help you decide if it is for you. If you want to see more game deals like this, then smash that like and subscribe buttons. Let's get into it. And number 1, the feature game of this month, Crusader Kings III. A grand strategy game that will have you live out your dreams of playing a monarch in a medieval world. The narrative in this game is mostly derived from the decisions that you make. You can start your story as several different rulers of a kingdom across an expansive map, each with their own backstory and drama to deal with. From then on, you're left to your own devices, making decisions for your empire, dealing with politics and family woes, and generally spending the time as a ruler of an empire. One thing right off the bat when you start the game is the amount of information you need to absorb to make your next decision. Even though it has been simplified since Crusader Kings II, it can be overwhelming, but it does get better once you get into it. If you need any help, there are plenty of tooltips available to help you navigate throughout the game. Additionally, if you're lost as to what to do in this rather huge game, there's another tool that you can use at the top right of your screen to suggest things that you can do. In terms of the gameplay, even though this is a grand strategy game, you don't really participate in wars like an RTS. You mainly play as a specific ruler across your kingdom, making decisions which will impact your empire and yourself personally. The wars are fought without your actual presence, and in fact, you can assign your vassals the freedom to wage wars of their own to expand your empire. So you can just sit back in your throne and manage your family drama. Some things that you can do are arrange marriages to form an alliance with another empire, or if you want to really live like a monarch from back then, there are incestuous relationships that you can get into. Choose to murder your brother because you didn't like him very much, or ally with another country to fight with you only to backstab them when you have the chance. Or, I kid you not, create your own religion. Yes, you can create your own religion and you can be as wacky as you want. Want to legalize cannibalism and have rituals created for such activities? You can do that. In Crusader Kings III, the world is your medieval oyster. You can do as you please as the ruler, if you're willing to face the consequences of it all. It is really fun if you have always fantasized about ruling your own medieval kingdom with the freedom to create your own destiny. At number 2, we have Just Cause 4. An open world action game with some pretty over the top sets and ridiculous traversal mechanics. You once again play as Rico Rodriguez, the protagonist from previous Just Cause games. This time you visit the island of Sorrowh, a tropical island that is ruled by a tyrant mega corporation who has access to technologies that the locals don't. And guess what? Your father is linked to these technologies. Yay! There won't be any nepotism though, as you have to stop this mega corporation and bring peace to Sorrowh. Yeah, the story isn't the strongest suit in this game. It's mainly there to push you through the game and plays its part in motivating you to keep going to see the end. If you've played Just Cause 3, you'll be familiar with the gadgets available to you. You have the grappling hook, glider suit, and parachute this time around to help you zip across the open tropical world. Who needs cars in this game when you can grapple into a moving vehicle, then whip yourself into the air and glide your way to the next location, then grapple again onto another object and whip yourself up again? It's like being Spider-Man and Superman at once, and this traversal mechanic is fun as always. Some additions to the grappling hook this time is the balloon and rocket propellers. You can attach your hook onto an object or a person, then attach the other end to a rocket and watch the rocket drag the object or person uncontrollably to create some hilarious moments. This brings about some interesting ways to destroy things, as you can lift giant boulders up in the air with your balloons, then drop them onto oil silos to cause absolute mayhem and destruction. You can really get creative with how you plan to destroy the world around you. When the game starts, the world is open for you to explore, so you can complete side quests or simply decide to make everyone's life a living hell by blowing things up. However, these side quests can get boring after a while as you do the old races, hacking things, blowing things up, but the main quests will do an excellent job to string you along and keep you motivated. Really, like Just Cause 3, Just Cause 4 is all about the mayhem that you can create, and that is the fun factor of this game. The story is very cliche and the side missions can be monotonous, but the fun is in how much chaos you would like to create in the world. At number 3, we have The Dungeon of Naheulbeuk, the Amulet of Chaos. A turn-based tactical role-playing game. You play as a band of fantasy adventurers, exploring an expansive dungeon filled with colorful characters and deadly enemies. Your party is sent to a dungeon to retrieve a statuette, but you're immediately cursed by the Amulet of Chaos, which brings continuous misfortune to your party. So your quest is turned from finding the statuette to finding a way to get rid of the curse that has been put upon you, for you to be able to continue finding said statuette. Unlike most RPGs, this game actually makes fun of its own story and dialogue, constantly breaking the fourth wall and featuring some very stereotypical characters, like a strong character with very low intelligence, or an elf who is for some reason also an archer. You can explore the dungeon in this game, collecting collectibles and finding secret doors hiding loot. When you encounter an enemy, you transition to an XCOM-like battle system, where you're thrown into a grid-based battle arena, allowing you and your enemy to murder each other in turn-based combat. There is environmental cover for range and magic attacks, or you can go face-to-face with the enemy with your melee characters. Where you're facing on the battlefield is doubly important, as there is backstabbing mechanic in this game which could lead to a critical hit. There's also a good variety of skills for you to obtain, and the enemies can have access to these skills too, so you have some idea as to what you're getting. The difficulty in this game does ramp up, but the game will throw a variety of side quests at you, so you aren't falling too far behind. There are some instances where attacks may damage yourself, but that's a design choice as you're cursed by misfortune. All in all, this game is fun if you like some turn-based RPG with some fun dungeon exploring, looting, and killing. And number 4, we have Forgive Me, Father. A first-person shooter action game with an interesting art style based on Lovecraftian lore. You play as either a priest or a journalist searching for a cousin. However, things aren't as simple as you think, as you have to murder otherworldly beasts and zombies on the way. You'll be shooting these beings with a variety of weapons ranging from a pistol, shotgun, all the way to more interesting weapons like the harpoon or an energy bolt gun thing called the energy catalyst. Although each character pretty much have the same weapon skills, they differ from each other from activated skills. Like the priest has more defensive abilities like invulnerability and self-healing, while the journalist has more offensive abilities like doing AoE damage, buffing her melee attacks, or stealing health from enemies. The game plays a lot like classic Doom, where a character will sprint around the map, running and gunning without any aim down sights. In fact, there isn't any reloading, so you'll be constantly running around mowing enemies down. Ammo does get more scarce on higher difficulties, so you'll want to watch your ammo count. Replayability comes from not only the two characters but also in weapon upgrades. At some point while upgrading, the game forces you to choose how you would like to evolve your weapon. You could turn your shotgun into a cursed shotgun or machine gun that fires laser beams. Another unique aspect of this game is the madness meter. The meter grows for every enemy that you kill, and once you reach its threshold, your screen becomes pasted in purple and your damage and defense will increase as you charge your abilities, rewarding highly aggressive playstyles. In terms of the levels, it is like classic Doom as well, where you are tasked to look for keys to unlock a door to enter the next area. Forgive Me, Father is a great first-person shooter game with an interesting comic book art style and classic first-person gameplay mechanics. And number 5, we have Crown Trick, a roguelike game that crosses itself with turn-based combat. You play as Ellie, you have a magic shape-shifting crown, and you're trapped in a dungeon faced with monsters that look like pigs. As per any good roguelikes, you have the usual tropes like dying over and over again and becoming stronger after each run till you beat the game, maps being procedurally generated, etc, etc. Where this game differs itself is instead of an action combat system like in most traditional roguelikes, it plays more like a tactical RPG game. Being turn-based, every move you make will give the enemy an opportunity to move, and this even comes down to reloading your weapon, where it will cost you one precious turn to reload. You can also obtain new weapons or perks and upgrades for your items. After you defeated a boss, you have the opportunity to add their special moves to your arsenal for future runs, and these abilities are really fun to use. These abilities play around the environment, like being able to spawn an exploding barrel on top of a vent to fire it across the room, really adds a new level of strategy to your arsenal. However, this game can be rather slow in the beginning, but if you stick with it, you'll have a ton of fun. And number 6, we have Descenders, a downhill biking roguelike. Wait, a roguelike in a racing game? What? In Descenders, the maps that you have to bike down are randomly generated, with random twists and turns and ramps that you have to jump to complete the track. Even the objectives for each track is randomly generated. The goal is to complete each track in each overworld map, and these maps range from forests to deserts and even down some dirt roads in a town. The interesting thing about this game is you aren't racing against anybody else, as the goal is to get downhill at your own pace. However, if you go too slow, the sun will set and you'll have to bike in the dark, which will most likely cause your untimely death. Of course, with every extreme sports games, you can perform tricks on your bike, like flips, but if you do fall over and off your bike, you lose a life. If you lose all of your lives, you have failed your mission to biking down the hill and you have to start over. You can gain more lives by finishing the randomly generated objectives for each track. You can even unlock perks via crew members, and these perks could be useful like providing a wider track as an example, and also cosmetics like helmets. Additionally, if you really want to immerse yourself in the game, you can race down the hill in first-person view. Be forewarned though, if you have the propensity to get motion sickness, you will most likely throw up all over your keyboard or controller as you bike down the hill in first person. Descenders is an excellent game for an adrenaline junkie who can't be bothered going outside. It is fast-paced, and with the randomly generated level design, it will keep your adrenaline pumping and your eyes focused on the next jump. And number 7, we have INDUSTRIA, a story-driven first-person shooter set in Berlin during the fall of the Berlin Wall. You play as Nora, a woman who is searching for her husband after an event in his research facility. located in East Berlin near the end of the Cold War. You're quickly thrown into an alternate reality where robots have caused the apocalypse in a world that seemed closer to the time of World War I. You'll find yourself trying to escape these killer robots while trying to discover the fate of your husband. INDUSTRIA strikes a good balance between danger and gunplay, even though it does not offer any hardcore challenges. Most of the time you'll be going from point A to point B, shooting down enemy robots, discovering more of this alternate reality via notes that are scattered across the various maps, while solving some environmental puzzles. The puzzles aren't very challenging either, and will have you walk around the map looking for parts to use on a door or start a train. Gunplay isn't groundbreaking, but it does lack hit markers, so you never really know if your bullet has actually hit your enemy or not. Whether this is an accident or by design, it does make you question if you're actually doing any damage to the robots, which ever so slightly boosts the tension. Bullets are plenty in easier difficulties, so if you want to experience a slightly more intense shooter, I recommend playing it on harder difficulties, so you have to watch your bullets. Despite its flaws, INDUSTRIA is a fun and short first-person shooter. Just don't expect too much from the story. There you go, I've somewhat spoiled it for you. Play it and you'll get what I mean. At number 8, we have Shapez, an automation game. In Shapez, you have to build factories to automate the production of geometric shapes. Soon you will also be required to color these shapes into different colors. The idea is to build a production line that is highly efficient, and you'll be doing this by ensuring that your production line can automate itself, which will assist in your cost to benefit ratio. You start out with a simple task, like taking a raw resource from one place to another. As you progress, the complexity increases, and you need to expand your production line over the infinite map, while looking out for your efficiency in said production. At some point, you'll even need to join the production lines together, creating a complex web. There are 2 lines of production for you to look after, the main production line which you will need to complete to pass the level, and a secondary production line which will allow you to unlock improvements. Most of the time you can only pick one line of production to complete, so this creates a big dilemma for players. This game may seem uninteresting at first with its simplistic art style and a lack of story, but if you like a game that will challenge your brain in creating the most efficient and automated production line, then Shapez is a great game to play. I think this month's Humble Monthly is awesome, with a variety of solid titles. Crown Trick has been in a Fanatical bundle recently, so to those who haven't bought Crown Trick in that bundle, this is a great bundle to get it in. I would highly recommend this month's bundle.